Today, we welcome the minority leader, Osahin Alexander Afenyo-Markin, to ASHESI University. ASHESI University was founded to educate Africa's ethical and entrepreneurial leadership. And during his visit, we showed him the Center for African Popular Culture and the collections we've been gathering over the years. It was also a great opportunity to introduce the ACHA field, where ASHESI typically holds its graduation ceremonies, and our traditional town hall, which is a semester gathering of students, faculty, and staff to discuss issues, opportunities, and solutions to problems not just in the school, but across the continent. The tour also involved showing around our classrooms, the courses we take like leadership and entrepreneurship. Another key part of the tour was also exploring our e-classroom model to show the learning systems and resources that are put in place to facilitate online learning for students. Additionally, we met students that were at the student hangouts that were involving in recreational activities like bead making and international food tasting. This was an opportunity for the minority leader to see hands-on students' engagement on ASHESI campus. We also toured the Warren Library at ASHESI University, which houses most of our e-resources, books, and other printing resources that students can use. The tour also involved exploring the memorial that ASHESI University unveiled earlier this year to commemorate the genocide against the Tutsis in Rwanda in 1994.
For now, I can only mention three important attributes and positions that he qualifies and has been given. I mentioned, first of all, the position as Member of Parliament for the Efutu constituency, the Minority Leader of Parliament, and the third Deputy Speaker of the ECOWAS Parliament, in the person of Osahin Honorable Alexander Afenyo-Markin. Honorable, we have chosen for your attention a theme that squarely fits your profile, the theme of the youth in national leadership. Considering your own profile and the positions you have occupied at a very tender age as a politician. First of all, you are probably the youngest member of parliament of Efutu, as far as my research goes, and one of the two youngest minority leaders in parliament since parliament started, according to my records. This is what brings you here. These are your children, your nephews, your nieces. You're going to tell us about the theme of the youth in national leadership.
Good afternoon. It's my distinct honor and high privilege to share this platform with you, students of Ghana's foremost Pan-African university. ASHESI, you do it privately, and you have your own unique selling proposition ahead of this campus, and my first time of being here. I must say that Cynthia Naba, who took me on a tour guide, did a great job, and I'm impressed. Thank you so much for having me here. So, Prof, the videos you see, they are not for the cameras. See me dancing, interacting with the old and the young. It's fulfilling what those who brought me into leadership expect of me. So, by way of background, after secondary school, I started a professional program, and that landed me at Ghana Post as a postboy, and eventually got to UCC. And from UCC, I deferred the program to go and read law, Buckingham University. So I recall in my final year, school had reopened and I was going back. And then my primary school classmates, quite a number of them, came to Accra and accosted me And they said, oh, everybody is talking about me in Winneba. I said, what is it? They said, oh, someone had won the primaries to be the member of parliament, but the person has since withdrawn and resigned. So they, the youth, felt that I should be their leader. I had no plans of being in politics. They managed to convince me, persuade me, and eventually I got in there. Now, the fact that they looked at certain things that I was doing proud, the relationship, how I related, and all of that, tells me that every single step you take in life, people are watching you. And it is a positive attribute that will let them come for you. So for me, it's about the consistency. It's not that today they've put you there and you've forgotten about them. I recall that whilst I was in school, I was getting my salary from Ghana Post because they put me on scholarship. So I was using my salary, part of it, to offer scholarship to those little ones in my community. By the way, I benefited from the benevolence of some public servants in Winneba. My friends who were coming from those homes, introduced me to their families, and that's how come my St. Augustine's admission fee was paid. And in fact, final year, it took Dr. Kwesi Ndom's bursary, and I competed for it, and I won. It was that paid for my registration and final year fees. And when I tell people that for the 3 years in St. Augustine's, I never slept on a mattress. I was moving from one bed to the other, because mommy said that the means was not there, and stepdads could virtually not afford anything. So my own background, the struggles, tells me that if there is an opportunity, go back to your roots. And that is the relationship. So in Winneba, I would want to learn the Asafo songs and the dance, the ompe, the apatampa, and all of that. And the little I have, I try to share. When I give, I don't give because I have it in plenty. It is a little I have. The story of that widow. All her might is what she gave. And I'm mindful of that. So, Prof, in sum, it is the background to it and the fact that others watched how I related to them and brought me here to be their leader. I never planned to get into politics. Mine was to be a lawyer, practice for some time, and then leave practice, get into entrepreneurship, and eventually get to the bench as a judge. I remember that was what I wrote in my book as my own life blueprint. Be a lawyer first, get into business entrepreneurship, and then at a point become a judge. So as for politics, it was not part of it at all.
There is a title, Osahin, often written as a preface, as a title to your name. Is it self-imposed?
But, well, some years back, my uncle, who is the chief of Ifutu, and Nenigati the seventh, told me that the elders had a plan for me, but he was not going to tell me. So 2 years ago, I think he came with some principal elders of Ifutu and indicated that they wanted to perform some ceremony. So he also warned or cautioned that he doesn't want any party person there. It's purely a traditional affair. And I didn't know what was going to happen. Some were speculating that they're going to make you Nkosohine or something. But Uncle kept it all to himself. And that day, he said, well, past 200 years or so, they've not had a unifier. You know, Winneba has seen some conflict for some time. The two Asafo groups, they've been in conflict and all of that. And they felt that I've managed to work with both Asafo. Because if you look at the Winneba voting pattern prior to my coming in, it was a very polarized community. All right, either you are for the Twafo or you are a Dente. We have two Asafo companies, the Dentefo and the Twafo. But he realized that both sides align with me, and they felt that, okay, then it is proper to honor me with that traditional title, Osahin. Osahin basically means a chief warrior for both. So I'm not a chief, because if I take that chieftaincy, for those of you who are law students here, it would have a constitutional implication. Under our constitution, if you are involved in partisan leadership, you are not to take any traditional title which would lead to an installment as a traditional leader. So there would be that conflict. So I'm not an installed chief. I only bear that honor conferred upon me by the traditional authority to bring the two Asafo companies together. And the uncle insisted that I should use it, and don't use the honorable, use what we have conferred on you. And well, it has helped, because ever since the Asafo celebrations, we've been, when I talk to the Asafo people, they listen, and we work together. So we've not had this situation where we must get a lot of police officers coming in to keep the peace during Abuachiri festival. You know, issues about chieftaincy and land can invoke emotions. So by the grace of God, we've been able to calm their nerves, and things are quite okay. So that would be my response to you, sir.
The theme before us is the youth in national leadership. Do you have any preliminary reaction to this theme, applying this to your own self?
Well, Prof, let me be very blunt. And I'm talking to future leaders of our dear nation. We have a challenge in terms of the governance architecture of our country. Everybody and his attitude towards leadership. For all I've seen through my travels, schooling abroad, doing business with people from other jurisdictions, and looking at where we are and the potential we have as a country, I believe that we need to reassess ourselves as a people. First, we need a huge institutional change. I mean, we are all in a certain struggle to better our lives. But it also appears that we are a bit impatient to allow systems to work. And in so doing, leaders want to also protect their office. Therefore, even where there is a potential for some escalation of the challenge, it's just like, okay, I don't want to touch it. I don't want to create problem for myself. But that is not what it is, what it should be. I would want to call a spade a spade. I would want to provide that leadership that will tell us as it is. If you lead the people and you cannot transform their lives and get things done right, you would leave it the way you met it, and even worse. Galamsey is a typical example of where I see for want of a better word, failure on the part of all of us. Someone may say that our educational system, which is geared towards a white-colored certificate, without emphasizing engineering, technology, technician training, skill development. So a lot more are having degrees, and all they see is, I must put on tie and be in an office. So nobody wants to take a vocation. And as political leaders, we are not also looking at a policy that would create a spread and incentivize vocational training. So you have people getting the opportunity and seeing themselves above certain jobs. These must change. We need to create a balance. Switzerland, for instance, has a policy that discourages students from pursuing degree education. So they have an incentive to encourage people to take up artisanal training because they feel that that part of the economy needs to be developed. So they have a deliberate policy towards that. So if today you as future leaders see some of these weaknesses, which I must concede is one of our problems, I would say that let us begin with a change in our attitude and speak out. There's a difference between being abusive and speaking out and calling leadership to order. It must begin from your side. Especially so now that social media makes it easy for people to express views. If you don't add up, we'll be comfortable. Leaders will be in their comfort zones. But that is not how it's supposed to be. As a minority leader, sometimes people think that, why are you being obstructive? Why didn't you let it go? I said, no. It is my job. Mine is to put friendship aside and tell you as it is, boldly, courageously, and at my own peril. 2 weeks ago, I was at one of the embassies to renew my visa, and the consular asked me, do you feel threatened? I said, no. For me, we need to do it. Because within West Africa, Ghana stands tall. Because as an ECOWAS member of parliament, I have toured the sub-region. And we are way, way ahead. However, we can do it better if we change our attitude and our posture. And leadership must also understand the fact that that privileged position is not to repeat the old mistakes, but to ensure that you transform. And that is what I think I would put across in this forum.
Considering your age relative to the average age of the Ghanaian parliamentarian, you are relatively younger and clearly so. Consider, for example, your own deputy. The deputy leader of the minority is about 70 years. Is it a matter of mother and son? How do you navigate this?
Well, so I would address the mother and son situation. Yeah, Mama Pat has been a restraining pillar. Okay, because in Parliament, the temperature can really rise. Things can get to a boiling point. She has been a former mayor of Kumasi, former deputy minister. She spent her own time in the private sector. She's a mother figure, and we are both Catholics. So when things get heated, I draw that mother inspiration from her, because there are times that she'll be holding me and praying that, Kwamena, let's do it this way. She doesn't call me leader, she calls me Kwamena. So it works for me. We do the balancing act. She's a mother of few words. You don't see her publicly doing the banter. So hers is the quiet diplomacy behind me. And when there's a need for me to push her on an errand to do the negotiation, you know, in Parliament, we do a lot of behind-the-scenes engagement. Most of the times, we agree on consensus. It's not all the time that we do this debate of take a decision by a vote. The bit you see on TV, I would say perhaps is less than 5%. But over 95, we go by consensus. And she does a lot of the legwork. It's only when on partisan principle we differ, because we are center-right by way of philosophy. The MPP is a center-right by way of philosophy and political ideology. We believe in free enterprise, constitutionalism, freedom of speech, entrepreneurship, diversity, inclusiveness, and all of that. For matters that we see as a breach of our philosophy, you will see us being very strong to tell our colleagues that we disagree with you on that. And most of the time, she would have to do the legwork and then come and report and then prepare me. So, you know, in the Ashanti kingdom, the role of the Queen Mother, she doesn't talk. You would hear of the Asantehene. But behind the Asantehene is that pillar of power. And I think that is what she wills.
Honorable, you are very vocal, Parliament. Almost temperamental. What have you achieved with these attributes?
Well, let me say that assuming that office as a minority leader, a minority of 87, I mean, the last election, quite disappointing. Our friends from day one, they decided to intimidate us with their numbers. And if you see how the chamber is configured, when they shared the seats, 189, in fact, the few independent candidates, MPs, we tried to negotiate with them to join us. And the last minute, they all resiled and disappointed us. So I told myself that, you know what, the minority will not win a vote, but we must definitely win an argument and ensure that the nation hears of us, that we are in the conversation in terms of governance. So I will tell you that what the caucus has achieved thus far is the fact that we are part of the national conversation. The fact that the NDC overwhelming majority cannot say that they have the numbers and therefore they can do whatever pleases them. It's not an issue of being temperamental or confrontational, but maybe I must lift the veil and talk to you a bit about politics. In the Chamber of Parliament, it's like a theater. You are an actor. You have a role to play. It is not you, but the role. You have your side. You have to look at the blocks within, the power blocks within your own party, the various constituencies within your party. A conservative party that may have very ultra-conservatives, that may have some liberals, and then you have your grassroots who want to see a pound-for-pound fight every day because they are debating and they want to see that there's fire on the mountain all the time. That's what they enjoy. So my job is to strike a balance. You have a speaker who is not from our side. You have a first deputy speaker who, I mean, for want of a better word, will say that he is always very partisan. they may want to intimidate your back. I have 42 first timers. So if I don't stand strong and firm, I won't be heard. So I would say that the act is to posture a courageous, personality. And in pushing that, you are likely to appear temperamental, you are likely to appear confrontational, but it's all part of the ecosystem of the floor politics. So don't be too worried about it. All right. In the end, where we need to build consensus, we do. But it is very important to make your case. It's slightly different from how you argue in court. In court, you use the procedure and then also the law. In politics, it is not so much about procedure and law. Politics is complicated. You may never be sure who is holding the dagger. So you must always have your plan B. And at any point, if a particular tool will keep you afloat, you must trigger that tool. You must know to know, Yeah. So these are all parts of the unique selling propositions that a leader must have. When you have to be diplomatic, you must be. When you have to be confrontational, you must be. All to ensure that your side, swim ashore. In the end, that is what you expect to achieve.
You have organized a number of walkouts and boycotts.
A few of them. A few of them.
How necessary was it part of the drama, the theater?
Well, it's a role play. We are playing a role in the political architecture. And at any point, those tools are necessary to be deployed. So as and when a particular tool has to be deployed, I do so and get my side going.
I've been signaled that I should be winding that. That's very disappointing. But let me pose this question related to the current World Cup. I'm not shooting off the mark, I can assure you. In the midst of this World Cup, when we are dealing with one sport that unites Ghana, for once you don't hear of NPP, NDC fighting, we are all united behind the Black Stars of Ghana for the sport, and we are happy for that breathing space you people have given us. Recently, when the Chief Justice felt free and patriotic enough to travel to Canada to support the Black Stars, your people were still opposing. What is he doing there? And that he was clearly demonstrating his bias towards the NDC. Is that fair? Isn't he a Ghanaian entitled to support the Black Stars?
All right, so let me address it this way. First of all, Prof, the circumstances of his appointment where a Chief Justice was removed and he was brought in as a replacement calls for greater concern for our governance. Two, we hold a view as a caucus that the Chief Justice, and for that matter, the judiciary, by the constitutional architecture of our country, is an independent institution. You are there to ensure that whenever there is any dispute, you settle it. And in doing so, you must give confidence to the people. Assure all sides that you are neutral. Therefore, a Chief Justice may have his passion, but in so doing, exercising that passion or wanting to prove to the world that I like this and all of that, you must not be seen to be holding on to the apron tail of the executive. That is the burden of our contention. The argument simply is that the Chief Justice, His Lordship Bafo-Boni, is overly leaning towards the executive. He empanels the court. He is the head of the judiciary. And in any event, the former Chief Justice, Justice Gertrude Arabe Saba-Tokono, still has cases pending before the Supreme Court. So our view is that he must exhibit his neutrality. It is not about the World Cup that we've seen him there, no. But we've consistently been raising the issue about he attending public events organized by government side. We think that that is not too right, and that is our view.